Hey, what's up, guys? Pete Alonso here from the New York Mets, and I'm here with Alfred. And I just want to say thank you so much to all you guys for listening to the Metropolitan Report. It's a really awesome show. You got some great insight on Mets baseball, and yeah, it's a great place where Mets baseball is talked about, and we got a lot of really fun stuff coming up this year. And a lot of really great things coming from this team in the clubhouse, and I'm really excited to keep the ball rolling. And it's been such a fun season, and I'm really thankful for everybody coming out to the ballpark and supporting us, and it's just been absolutely tremendous. So thank everybody for listening to the Metropolitan Report, and Alfred, keep doing your thing, and as always, LFGM.
Hey, everybody, it's Alfred Parsar Jr. back with another edition of the Metropolitan Report. And today we're going to discuss more developments from the Mets so far in 2025 spring training. We're going to talk about who should be the backup catcher, what the Mets should do at second base, and much more. But before we begin, I must remind you, make sure you hit that subscribe button below if you enjoy the content and want to stay up to date on Mets news and my thoughts and my opinions surrounding not only Mets spring training, but the season going forward, because I'll be here all season. So again, like and subscribe, leave a comment if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, and you want to engage with me and the content. So first things first, since our last Metropolitan Report, Carlos Mendoza has come out and he has said that Clay Holmes will open the season exactly 1 week from today on March 27th in Houston against the Astros. I wholeheartedly agree with Mendoza that Clay Holmes should be the opening day starter. Now, back on episode 1 of our 2025 coverage for this season, I was a bit skeptical. Clay Holmes hadn't been a starter since 2018. When he was a starter, it wasn't for a long stint. He was the Yankees closer. The last couple of seasons, he was known for blowing saves. He had 13 blown saves en route to losing the closing job last season. And then the Mets pick him up and make him a starter. But with the current state of the Mets rotation, no Sean Manaea, no Frankie Montas, and with Kodai Senga working his way back from injuries, this is the logical move. Of course, other candidates to make the rotation, which we don't even know what's going to happen yet between Tyler McGill and Paul Blackburn, as well as Griffin Canning. Those guys are all battling for the fourth and fifth spots. David Peterson would be a solid number 2, I would assume. No problem with Peterson at all. He's had a great spring. But Clay Holmes is definitely the number 1 choice. And Clay Holmes has looked fantastic. Clay Holmes so far this spring, I don't even think he'll pitch again this spring by the looks of it. 4 starts, 1-1 record, even though again it's spring training, but 1-1 is not bad. 1.29 ERA. He struck out 15 batters in 14 innings of work. Clay Holmes has been phenomenal. He's looking like he's in midseason form. Very dominant so far this spring. And out of all the Mets starters who have started games for the Mets in spring training this year, Clay Holmes, by far, has been the most dominant Mets arm on the staff amongst starting pitchers. Again, I have no issue with this. Holmes looks like he's in midseason form. It'll be interesting to see now that we're going to get out of spring training in a week, where there are no longer guys on the bubble trying to make the team. There are no more minor leaguers invited to camp, no more non-roster invitees. This is going to be major league competition. Now, fortunately for Holmes and the Mets, he has seen the Astros in spring training. Holmes has pitched against the Astros twice. His first 2 starts of the spring were against the Astros. The first start wasn't major league talent in that Astros lineup, but the second start was. But how? When the games really count, I want to see if Clay Holmes has the same poise and composure that he had in the spring. What's really going to happen when he has to face Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez and Jeremy Pena and all these other guys when the games really count? It's going to be interesting to see, but I am a full believer in Clay Holmes right now. I am a full supporter of Clay Holmes starting the season as our opening day starter. Again, the Mets open the season on the road in Houston 1 week from today, March 27th. And again, for those of you who are saying you disagree, again, the man dominated in spring. The numbers don't lie. 1.29 ERA in 14 innings. I'll take that any day, especially if those are regular season numbers. Clay Holmes, again, looking like he's in midseason form. Now, he has not started since 2018, but again, looking good in the spring. And when we do our season preview early next week, right before opening day, our opening day preview, I'll dive in a little bit more in depth. But Clay Holmes looking really, really solid this spring, and he's the logical choice. Again, Kodai Senga, they got to bring him back a little bit slowly. Coming off of a season where he only made one regular season start, was injured most of the year, and then got shook up the last time we saw him by the Dodgers. I think Peterson should be the number 2 option. And of course, I would not trot out whatever combination of the 3 make the rotation between McGill, Blackburn, and Canning. So Clay Holmes absolutely deserves to be the starter opening day. Another issue in camp, of course, Francisco Alvarez going to miss that 6 to 8 weeks with the broken left wrist that he had surgery on. We already know that Luis Torrens, his backup, is now going to be the starter for the opening month of the season. But the question remains, who is going to be the backup catcher? There are 2 candidates, Jackson Reitz or Hayden Senger. Now, a lot of Met fans who are casuals or haven't been keeping up with spring training may not recognize these names. They may go, who? But let me break it down to you. Again, this is the backup catcher position. Whoever gets this job is going to be out of a job once Francisco Alvarez comes back. Because what team in Major League Baseball do you know that's going to carry three catchers? I don't know any team that's going to carry 3 catchers on the active roster. You always have one everyday catcher and then the backup for when he needs a day off, or if there's a pitcher on staff who prefers his own personal catcher. Last time somebody on the Mets roster had a personal catcher was Noah Syndergaard when he wanted Devin Mesoraco over Wilson Ramos and that whole shebang. But Jackson Reitz versus Hayden Senger, let's break it down, the pros and the cons. Jackson Reitz has major league experience. Hayden Senger does not. Jackson Reitz's major league experience, he's played in 8 career major league games, 2 cups of coffee. He had a cup of coffee with the Washington Nationals in 2021, and then he had a cup of coffee again last season with the San Francisco Giants. So Jackson Reitz missed 2022 and 2023, 3 years in between appearances. Reitz in 8 career games has had 16 at bats, an average of 188, one home run, and 1 RBI. That's a small sample size. The man has had 2 cups of coffee in between 3 seasons. Not really too convincing. And in fact, in his debut season, he had an extremely small sample size. He only had 2 at bats, and he had 1 hit. He hit .500 for the season, but only 2 at bats, 1 for 2. As opposed to last season, he had 14 at bats and went 2 for 14. On the other hand, we have Hayden Senger. Hayden Senger was a minor league invite to training camp. Hayden Senger, the only advantage he holds over Jackson Reitz is that he's been in the Mets organization for a while now. Senger, he's been in the Mets organization since 2018. He was a draft pick of the Mets. He was picked in the 24th round And yes, Major League Baseball has a lot of rounds in their draft, unlike the NBA and the NFL. But he was a 24th round draft pick in 2018. He's been in the organization since 2018. So a lot of these guys who are on this roster who have come up through the minor league system are familiar with Hayden Senger. So that's that. Um, Senger has been in many spring trainings with the Mets in the last couple of seasons. So Senger, again, his edge is familiarity with the staff. Uh, Senger has participated in every Mets spring training since 2021. The only thing that and Senger, the only thing that also gives him an edge outside of familiarity is his spring training numbers. And we could cue up the graphic. This is a terrible comparison, by the way, folks. Hayden Senger's in this year's spring training, as you can see, he's got a 167 average, no homers, no RBIs. He's got 18 at bats. And then if you look at the left side of the screen, Jackson Reetz, a 118 average and 17 at bats, but he does have the one home run and the 5 RBIs. I'm going to be very, very honest here. Give Jackson Reetz the job. You know why? Because, again, the key to this is that whoever wins this job is going to be out of a job when Francisco Alvarez eventually returns. So whoever wins this job is only going to be on the Mets roster until probably mid-May, and then they're getting the boot. And why bring up Hayden Senger just to send him back down a month and a half later? You bring in Reetz, who is a journeyman, because in between his 2021 with the Nationals and his 2024 with the Giants, he spent time in the Milwaukee Brewers organization. He spent time in the Kansas City Royals organization. He's a journeyman. He's bouncing around. Give him the opening day backup job. The guy and I mean, it's only 8 games. It's only been 2 cups of coffee. Give him another cup of coffee. He has major league experience. He has hit a home run at the major league level. And as I always say, it makes no sense to give this type of role to a prospect or a young kid, although Senger has been in the organization since 2018. So one has to think, well, if he's not earned a spot by now, when is he ever going to get one, if at all? But I say let Senger develop a little bit longer and put Reetz out there, because, again, when Alvarez comes back, Reetz is probably going to get DFA'd. But Reetz has a slight advantage offense-wise because he has been productive in spring training, and he has proven he can hit a home run in Major League Baseball. So, but again, I'm not even worried about who's going to be the backup, because this is Luis Torrens's job until Alvarez comes back. Torrens will take his regular role of the backup once Alvarez comes back. So the backup's backup will be gone by the second week of May, or third, depending on how fast they could get Alvarez back. But I would, if I'm Mendoza, I'm going Jackson Reetz, backup catcher. Another position that needs filling out before we get out of here today on the Metropolitan Report. On our last report, we noted that there was a competition for backup infielder. Nick Madrigal went down. Okay. Now all of a sudden, Jeff McNeil's got an oblique injury. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks as these spring training injuries continue to mount and creep up in Port St. Lucie and haunt the Metropolitans at Cloverfield. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. But now the question is, we need a starting second baseman. The competition, if you will. Brett Beatty, who's come up as a third baseman. Then you have the hot shot prospect that everybody was impressed with when he had his cup of coffee last season, Luis Angel Acuna. And then you have the veteran journeyman Donovan Walton. Now, the infield is gonna have two jobs because McNeil went down, and this job was for the backup infielder if anybody got hurt or needed a day off. So now we need a backup infielder and we need a starting second baseman. The Mets have had this experiment of having Brett Baty play second base, and I must say, Brett Baty looks very uncomfortable at second base. And when they were putting him at second base, I thought it was insane, and I'll tell you why it's insane. Brett Baty couldn't even master his position at third base, which he's been playing his whole professional career. He's only being considered for the second base position because of an injury. If Jeff McNeil doesn't go down, Baty has no opportunity to even audition to be in this role. Then you look at Luis Angel Acuna, who, and I've said this twice this season so far, when it came to the backup job, you do not want to give this kid the backup infielder job because he needs reps. He's young. There's a lot of promise there. A lot of the Mets' future is invested in him going forward. So you don't want Acuna to just sit and rot on the bench and watch games from the dugout when he could be getting meaningful innings defensively and plenty of at-bats offensively in Syracuse. But now, since we have a need for a starting second baseman, now it makes sense to have him in the competition. And then there's the odd man out in this whole situation, Donovan Walton. On our last episode of the Metropolitan Report, before the Jeff McNeil injury was announced, I was okay with having Donovan Walton making the club as a backup. Again, why would you want Acuna, a young kid, to just sit and watch and hardly and barely participate and play games when he could get meaningful work in Syracuse? So now if things were okay and McNeil was still going to be able to start the season on opening day, Walton would have a job if I'm Carlos Mendoza. But let's break things down. As far as Walton goes, he's the odd man out, and I'll tell you why. You need a starting second baseman, and Donovan Walton's not doing himself any favors. Let's pull up the graphic between all three of these guys. Donovan Walton, out of the three, has the poorest offensive numbers. Walton, while his defense is good, is only batting 188. 1 homer, 5 RBIs. For a guy who's being outclassed by the other two, you know, what he now becomes expendable with McNeil's injury. Say what you will, but Jeff McNeil getting hurt Walton's chances at making the opening day Mets roster. Then you have Luis Angel Acuna this spring. No homers, but he was never a power guy to begin with. Batting .250, 2 RBIs, and he swiped 3 bags. Luis Angel Acuna, like I said, the future of this ball club. Hands down, the future. So much rides on this young man's shoulders for the Mets for seasons forward. Luis Angel Acuna, solidly defensive. Or defensively solid. Sorry, the excitement in me, because we're a week from opening day, is getting me, but he is defensively solid. Has the ability to steal bases. Runs really, really well. And again, the young man had a cup of coffee last season, hit over 300. He hit 309. I was very impressed with Luis Angel Acuna last season, and I like what I've seen from him this spring. Again, like I've always been known to say, you could bat .250, that's the new 300. Speaking of guys batting 300, the third candidate in this competition, Brett Baty. Now, while Brett Baty is poor defensively at second base, he's been having the spring of a lifetime. The guy's mashing. He's batting 333. He's homered twice, 6 RBIs, and he's proven he can steal a base. He's got a stolen base so far this season, or this spring, I should say. And I have not been high on Brett Baty due to his defensive struggles, his past offensive struggles. For his career regular season, 2022 to present, he's a lifetime 215 hitter. But he's been a revelation this spring. Just last night against the Astros, again, he had a double and he had a triple. His power game has improved. I'll tell you that. His power hitting, he's got a lot of extra base hits this spring. So I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Brett Baty should make the club out of spring on opening day. I firmly believe Brett Baty should be on this team. However, he should not be the starting second baseman, but he should be on the team, and let me tell you why. Brett Baty has been on the team's major league roster since 2022. They have given him chance after chance after chance through 3 seasons. This should be his last chance. His output this spring has earned him this last opportunity. And I guarantee you, if he had a subpar spring, he wouldn't even be in the conversation because, again, he is defensively rotten. But me being the old school baseball purist that I am, he's hitting 333. Not a lot of guys in the majors, whether it's spring training or regular season, could even crack 275 or 250 nowadays. The young man has earned his place. Let this be his last chance. He hit 333 in the spring. He's had a solid spring. I mean, outside of guys like Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, who are looking to be in mid-season form this spring, Brett Baty is mashing like we're in June, July, August. Give him the job. But if he underperforms this time, either trade deadline or DFA at some point, because the experiment cannot go on forever. But Brett Baty, his offense, even though his defense is poor, I'm a fan of his offense, and he's going to be a bat that we need. And hey, even if you decide you don't want to play him on a certain day in the infield, you could DH him too, since he's that strong of a bat. But I think the opening day starter should be Luis Angel Acuna. Make that man the starting second base. You know why? His ceiling is higher than Brett Baty's. In the sample sizes that we've had between the two of them, it looks like the ceiling is much higher for Acuna than it is for Brett Baty. And for that reason, give that man the job. And sorry, Donovan Walton, I don't know if you end up in Syracuse or you end up a free agent at the end of the spring, but Jeff McNeil getting hurt his chances to make the club. And his lackluster offense, his lackluster bat also doesn't help him because, yes, you can be great defensively. Yes, you can stop base hits from rolling to the outfield. Yes, you may dive and make a good play, but you can't produce. Baseball is not a one-dimensional game. You got to be able to, unless you're a DH, which Donovan Walton will not be. And DHs, you got to be a slugger. But unless you're a DH, you got to be able to play in the field. And you got to be able to hit. And while Walton can play in the field, I'm not convinced he can hit. But let Acuna show out. And Acuna is young. This would be his first real MLB season. Again, he's still Rookie of the Year eligible because he had a cup of coffee last season, only 39 at-bats. Let Luis Angel Acuna start at second base, take the reins off him, and see how far he could go. And who knows, if he shows out, Jeff McNeil may not have an easy time getting back in the lineup when he comes back. And similar to the catcher situation where when Francisco Alvarez comes back, the backup is gone. If either Acuna or Beatty struggle, by the time McNeil comes back, somebody's going back down to Syracuse. And like I said, this should be the last experiment or the last stop on the Brett Beatty experiment, in my opinion. I would start Luis Angel Acuna at second base, but that's just me. But if you disagree with me or you agree, sound off in the comments. Do you think Brett Beatty should start at second? Do you think Luis Angel Acuna should start at second? Do you agree with Clay Holmes being the opening day starter? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, because every time the Metropolitan Report goes live on the air, you'll get the notification and you'll be one of the first ones to know. And again, we're going to have great content coming out past the spring into the regular season. And I'm working on some things that all Met fans may find interesting. So whether you love the Mets, whether you love baseball in general, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Until next time, Mets Nation, this is Alfred Parsard Jr., and I'll see you on the next report. LFGM.